So just pray. So I'm just going to pray first. Thank you for this moment. I want you to thank you for this moment, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the Most High. In this moment, I'd like to ask you to grace this space. And we're going to go into this very interesting Bible verse, Bible chapter. And this chapter and this verse is secretly hidden in the Bible because it mentions this book in the Bible, but at the same time that it mentions it, it is not included in the Bible, right? But this chapter is going to reveal certain facts to us. As we've been going through the secrets of gold, we spoke about how the gold is the Aurum from the AU79, and this is the same as the Aurum audio and inauguration, everything along those lines. So given that, it is something that can be used to augment. This is what was in the gold. Now, gold is one side of the coin that is balanced out with silver. Silver and gold. So, silver. Let me get back the paper from yesterday. So, yeah, this is it, right? So, this is the gold AU79 Aura Auburn. So, this was talking about how they were burning the brick in Babel. They were burning brick in Babel, right? So this was the burning brick, but this was the Auburn burning brick. And this burning brick, the Auburn, the burning, was also what we were expressing in the burn, in the story of Nebuchadnezzar, and how he was burning people for not worshiping gold, the Auburn. So in that, an angel appeared in the burning furnace and saved them from being burnt. So I went through all of this, and then we went into this in the video on the secrets of Bantu, hidden Bantu gold or something like that. And I'm going to continue from that. So we're talking about gold, and gold works hand in hand with silver. So I'll just fold this in half, and I will recycle this paper. And silver and gold work hand in hand. So I'm going to recycle this paper, and I will take my time to express this because it is the glory of God to hide things. It is the honor of kings to search out a matter. So gold is AU, and this is the number for silver. Okay, gold is something else, right? So AG. So from this is just where we get again and again, and this is how it starts. So when we look at silver, we see that the story of silver is told again and again. It's told again when we talk about gold, and the story of silver is also AG, like aggression. It's also where we get the aggression. But silver has so many dynamics of the good and the bad in the Bible because it's used again for different things. So it is how you are like making decisions, how you create wealth, how you create power, and how nations are created, because it is actually a book called Judges, and then there's a book called Kings, because it's about the judgment of the person that creates the wisdom of God. This is the wit dominion. So this dominion operates on a principle of wit, which is wisdom. That's the domain that we operate in. And this is in Proverbs chapter 8, which speaks about wisdom. That's the domain of wit. So with wit, we're able to conquer anything, right? So with this power, what we have is the silver and the gold which is the power to decide, right? So are you going to decide silver or gold? This is the knowledge of good and evil, right? So this is either or, right? So with this, we're going to go into how this hidden book speaks of the actual black people who used to rule the world, okay? But then here we're just going to cover this, and then we'll go into the text. So AE. So this one is going to be very, very important. And I've spoken about these words before in the past. And this is linked to the gold, okay? So this is where we get the EA, and then the AE as well. The C and the ear, the heart, the EA. And this is where we get the ether. This is where we get either. This is where we get silver or gold, either. We get either of those. But this is gotten from the dynamics that make silver and gold different. They have different characteristics, but either or, they're all powerful. And they operate on earth, which is EA. And then they also operate in heaven, which is EA. But there's also an AE in heaven. But then this is as above, so below. What is in the prayer that God created on the second day? The waters above and the waters below, separated those things. So what is in heaven is also replicated in what is on the earth. And as we have seen, the ones who wanted to burn the earth and to create this Tower of Babylon, they were using the earth in order to burn, and then that burning creates a release of something into the ether, which was going up to heaven, right? So ether represents heaven, heaven. And AU is gold, AE is ether, AG is silver, and heaven is EA, right? But then earth is also EA, RTH, which is HEART, which is heart, which is EAR, which is ear. So this is aether, ether, either. So I really like this word because this letter, because it has so much significance in understanding the Bible. So this is AE, AE. And I actually just call this the Bantu key of knowledge because it has so much knowledge within it. Because when Jesus is, there's a chapter in Numbers that speaks of a person who's called Peor, and then he ends up being Beor, right? The B flips into a P. It starts off like this, right? But this story is so crazy that you need to understand it better. But you need to understand it better by reading the story because it's about how the children of Israel were vexed by this person. And then the P flips to a B, right? And then in the New Testament, we hear of this word as well. This is Abba. Abba. And then Abba means father. So from a word like this is where you get so many descriptions or so many variations. And this is just to show how words work, right? The Abba, this is AB, and this is the whole alphabet. And then this creates every word from Baba to Papa to Dada to everything. But then it's from Abba. In Hebrew, Abba, father. That's what it means. So understanding the word is also understanding the word. So this is why I was talking about the ether, right? And then we're going to go into this book that is mentioned in the Bible that speaks of how the world was ruled by the black kings in the first place. So it has to do with the earth, it has to do with the heaven, it has to do with the air. And when we look at EA, it is actually just the same as AE. That's the ash tree. That's the Abba. That's the father. Same thing as if you say dad, you're using a D, which is looking up. And then if you say pop, you're using a D that's looking down. And then that's the same thing. So this is EA, and that's the air. And that's what we inherit. In Colossians, it speaks of the word Abba, Father. And it first says, when the light of God shines in you, that's when you will begin to speak, to say Abba, Father. So it's a very interesting word, but I refer to it as a Bantu key of knowledge because it has so much in it, and there's a video on it if you want to know more about that, called the Bantu key of knowledge. So this ether is either A and E, and either, okay, that's the choice of silver or gold, right? So ether is found in heaven, heaven, the air, electro, and magnetic. Electricity and magnetic, so the electromagnetism is used with those elements. All right, so now with this book in the Bible that speaks of the kings that used to rule, let's go into it. So when we're reading the Bible, there's places in different books that have different information pertaining to extra information that is known to the Hebrews, to the Jews, and to the people who are praying to God, right? And when they used to write, they would write knowing their audience. So I'll turn to Joshua 10, verse 13, right? Joshua 10:13. So I'm just going to read the two verses that speak of this book, and then I'll go into the book. So 10:13. So the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is it not written in the book of Jasher? Is it not written in the book of Jasher? This is a person writing this, asking the person who's reading if this is not written in this book of Jasher. So the Bible is talking about this book that we have to know because it is the glory of God to hide things, the honor of kings is to search out a matter. So it actually speaks of the greatest miracle ever told, right? So that's one reference. That's Joshua 10:13, the book of Jasher. And then 2 Samuel 1:18. 2 Samuel, right? 1:18. So this is also called, this is also actually Kings. Samuel is Kings as well. But 18. So it says in verse 18, also he bade them to teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher. And the use of the bow is speaking of is going to be also mentioned in the chapter we're going to read. So this book of Jasher is coming straight from the Bible, although we have to do our research to find it. So I'm going to be reading it from my phone because I don't have the hard copy with me. I'm going to be reading chapter 9. Chapter 9 is going to be telling us everything pertaining to the first kingdom, the first king, and how it was and what happened. Because it is our prerogative to know the truth, because it is it is a gift from us. It is a gift for us. So I'm going to open Jasher. Let's go to chapter 9. So, book of Jasher. So, this is from Sacred Texts. And this book is so interesting. It speaks of how Abraham grew up, how he grew up in a cave. Like, it's just so much. But we're just going to go into just this verse so that we can get into the story. So, you may want to read it in depth on your own, but I'm just going to read a few parts in chapter 9. And so here, verse 6 is just saying Abraham, at this point, he was in Noah's house 39 years. It talks about how Nimrod wanted to kill Abraham, how Abraham was in Noah's house, how Cain, like there's so many interesting things in this book, and it comes straight from the Bible. So the people who wrote and read the Old Testament read all of this because it is not written in that book, you know. So Noah and his son Shem were teaching Abraham in that house, which is interesting because it was spoken about how that house would have Shem's tent, there will be so much instruction going on. So Noah was in servitude at a certain point there. It actually says a long time. And so here, we're going to go to the part where, so Abraham was asking himself about God. And then, so we go to verse 21, 20. Let's go to verse 20. All right. And King Nimrod reigned securely. So this was the first king of the earth. So already this is the part in the other video I spoke about Nimrod, how Nimrod was spoken of as starting his kingdom in Babel. And Babel is in the Middle East. And it means that King Nimrod was a king, a black king in what we call Sumeria, when we look at the Middle East, or what we call Babylon still, right? Iraq, all of those places. So that's where he was. But here's going to get into more detail. In the Genesis book, it speaks about Nimrod there. But here it's going to speak about Nimrod and the other people that he was with. So it says King Nimrod reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control. And all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. So this, we expressed it in the video of gold, of how he was using his wealth, his power to stir the hearts of the people. So the EA as well is in that. Okay, the AE, you're going to hear a lot about this. This is why I first expressed the EA, AEG. This is the silver, gold, either or. The choice, which is wit or wisdom. Wisdom comes from the air, which is AE, air, right? So we're heirs of this wit dominion. We live in this domain of wit. So we must be wise. We must be equipped with quick wit, because we're supposed to be wet, humidity, wet, wit. We're supposed to be with wit. So God, by his wittiness, created all of us with wit. So EA, AE, AG, AU, silver, gold, the decisions we make lead us to creating silver, creating gold. And as we've seen, sometimes silver comes again and again as aggression. The story of Joseph comes with silver coming with aggression. The story of Jesus comes with silver coming with aggression. And gold comes also with people who love it for the wrong reasons. And this is expressed in Nimrod, in Babylon. This is why it's important about the Oberon. So that's the allure. So here, King Nimrod was reigning securely. The whole earth was under his control. That's more power than anyone's ever had, I suppose. Or anyone who's this well known has ever had. Although Nimrod is not well known, because I don't think a lot of people actually do read this book. But yeah, he had a lot of power. And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together. So here we go. So these are the princes of Nimrod. So we have Put, we have Mitzrayim, we have Cush, and we have Canaan and their families, right? So these are the sons of Ham, right? And they said to each other, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, and in it a strong tower, and its top reaching heaven." Heaven. Again, this is the key. So they wanted to make a key to heaven. This is, I call it the Bantu key of knowledge, just because it turns like a key. But then it comes from this Abba. So now they're taking earth, want to flip it over to heaven. They want to flip it over. So this is their key. So it's like this porthole, this gate, this tower, Babel, this is their key. But they want to make heaven, earth, earth, heaven. And this is what they're saying, right? So come, let us build ourselves a city, and in it a strong tower, and its top reaching heaven, and we will make ourselves famed, so that we may reign upon the whole world, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us. That we may reign mightily over them, and that we may not become scattered over the earth on account of their wars. Right? So imagine that. They were saying that let's do this in the name of peace. So something to understand here, it's very interesting. All right. So here, this is verse 21. So it's talking about these are the chiefs of Nimrod. Nimrod is the king, and all of these are his people. Put, Mizraim, Cush, and Canaan, four people, right? And this is a grandson, but he's actually ruling over his fathers. So Nimrod was a very, like, in the heart, like, he was able to do certain things, as I was expressing in the first video on the secrets of gold. He knew the secrets of what is hidden, and he was able to be the first ruler, and he was able to do this. So this is now Genesis chapter 10 and verse 6. It says the sons of Ham are Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. So these are the sons of Ham. Ham, Ham, Ham. A-M. And then this is also, this story of Shem and Ham is also expressed in the whole, like, I actually wrote a book about this one. It's called The Lost Bantu Book of the Black Jews of Africa. All right. But it speaks about Ham, right? So these are the sons of Ham, which were the chiefs of Nimrod. Okay. And now Nimrod, here we just go to Nimrod's in Genesis chapter 10, it says in verse 8, it says Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. Actually, Nimrod began to be greater than his father, because in the book of Jasher, it's saying that these were his princes and he was the king. So imagine that. He is ruling over this person who's his father, who came out from, like, that's amazing. And especially with the fact that Put, Mizraim, Cush, and Canaan. So this is before they actually created. So Mizraim later on became Egypt. So and then Cush later on became Ethiopia. Put later on became Put, right, which is Gabon, which is written in the book of Jasher, that it's sub-Saharan Africa, the children of Put. Let me, but it's a chapter before that it speaks about the children of Put, and then you see that they were in sub-Saharan Africa. One of them is called Gabon, which is Gaborone, which is Botswana. Gaborone, Gabon, Gibeon, all of those are children of Put. So that's the Bantu people. Okay, Bantu people. So now these are the children of Ham, which occupied the whole of Africa. But at first, they were ruling the whole world with one language in one place, which is Babylon, which is in the Middle East, according to the Bible. And from this place, they moved. So the people who are now in Africa came from this place with these teachings. So it says, and then they were under Nimrod, the black king, and Cush began Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. So even God knew about him. Even God knew about him to the extent that God came down to see what Nimrod was doing. You know, not what his father was doing, not what Noah was doing, not what Abraham was doing, what Nimrod was doing. So Nimrod was a very mighty man, very mighty black person, and not really seen as such and portrayed as an idiot. But he was extremely smart, because Egypt and Ethiopia, this is the kingdom of Cush, the kingdom of Ta, like Egypta, Twa. Like, that place had so much wisdom and so much knowledge and so much valuable information that it came out of Nimrod. It didn't come after Nimrod, even though Nimrod came after the person who is Ethiopia, who is Cush, and who is Egypt. So Nimrod was very, very talented, right? So here's another key that is very important, that it says here that they wanted to build this tower, verse 21, chapter 9 of Jasher. It says that, so it says, put Mizraim, Cush, and Canaan and their families. So Canaan was the one who was cursed, and put Mizraim and Cush were not cursed, right? But then they were doing something that was going to give them a curse, which came from their father Ham. So the story of Ham is again and again the story of Adham, right? Adham and Ham, they're the same person who begin the world when the world is just full of water. Adam came when the world was full of water, and his children inherited the curse. The curse came to Cain, and in Ham, He was a father who came after the world was flooded with water, and he also had a curse that he gave to his children. In Adam's case, it was Cain. In Ham's case, it was Canaan. It's the same story juxtaposed. So Ham has a special part in the whole Bible because Ham and Shem are hemmed. That's why I say, like, I actually express this in more detail in written form about Ham and Shem because of this statement that it says in both books. Okay, so verse 21, it says, "Put Mizraim, Cush, Canaan, and their family, say to each other, 'Come, let us build ourselves a city, a strong tower, its top reaching heaven, and we'll make ourselves famed, so that we may reign upon the whole world, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us.'" The evil of their enemies, right? So I'm going to express who their enemies are, and this is going to be even more fascinating than the fact that the black people were ruling the world. But who are their enemies? It says, "That we may reign mightily over them, and that we may not become scattered all over the earth on account of their wars." So there were another group of people who were all about war, to the extent that when we're actually reading in Samuel, the people of Judah were now being taught to go to bend their bow, and the bow actually comes from put, which is, as you can see, like in sub-Sahara, like they used to use a bow and arrow a lot, but that comes from put. It's also written here how they wanted to go and fight with the bow and arrows to God. They actually tried to do that. So ridiculous, but not as ridiculous as we might think, because they had so much power, more than we understand. So they wanted to do this to protect themselves from wars. So the first thing to notice is that not everything that has this like good sounding rhetoric of peace is good, because they're saying, no, we're going to do this for peace, so that we only one. But then as you go on, you read that that they were actually lying. Their hearts were not aligned. But what was actually happening was this, that they are, so here, this is now Genesis, and this is chapter 10 verse 20, and says, "These are the sons of Ham after their families, their tongues, their countries, and their nations." And it talks about Shem, and then it says, "These are the families of Shem after their families, their tongues, and their lands, and their nations." This is KJV, right? Now, who are their enemies? The enemy apparently is not Shem, because Shem is the one who is blessed. Shem and Ham are hammed, as you will see that their children's will share names. Same, so they're hemmed in that way. Same way that the children of Nimrod and was hemming the fathers together. He brought them together. The children of Shem and Ham later on, after God did the good thing, because they were scattered. So that was good. So after that, they were still interacting with Shem, their brother. But here's the thing, in Genesis chapter 10, it says, "And these are the sons of Japheth." So in the boat, there were four men. So there was Noah and his three sons. So one of his sons is Shem, one of his sons is Ham, and the other one is Japheth. So Shem and Ham basically hemmed. But then the other third son, this one is the one they were calling the enemy, because it says in the Bible that these were the, like, these are the sons of Javan, by these are the sons of Japheth, right? Speaks about them, all of them, Gomer, Madai, Tubal, all of them. These are the sons, and these were the isles of the Gentiles, divided in their lands, everyone in their tongue and their families, right? And then for Shem, it says, "These are the children of Shem after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, after their nations." For Ham, it says, "These are the sons of Ham after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, in their nations." For Japheth, "By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided." Division already. These ones are after their tongues, but these are divided. But these are what? The Gentiles. This is where they emerge for the first time being mentioned in scripture. The Gentiles come from this so they come from this verse. So this is how they began to be divided, and this division was causing wars. And in the time of Nimrod was dividing the Gentiles. So there was the Jews and the Gentiles. So they were one group of Jews, but these Jews wanted to go against God. God came down to see what his children were doing, these black children, right? And then he divided them. But the Gentiles were already divided, and they wanted to stop their wars and go against. That was their reason or their excuse, but they were actually doing what they wanted to do. So there were Gentiles and there were the other people. So this is very important to realize that Nimrod in this situation was not considering himself as a Gentile because of his family background and the family tree. However, what he was doing was not according to what he was supposed to be doing. It was not according to the blessing that was supposed to be within that. So that's why the children of Ham end up being hemmed to the children of Shem. This is the process of being born again. You're born again and you become a kind, kindred spirit, the same kind, like a king, kind, kinder. Like you become of that bloodline, you're now a kindred, and then you're now in that bloodline of Jesus. This is why they're born again. So this is why it's important to know the genealogy. Which genealogy are we coming out of? Maybe there's certain Gentile ways that have caused division and that cause wars. So those things, even in one of the Gospels, Jesus is saying, do not be anxious like the Gentiles. Anxiety, always being on edge, all of those things are not the things of the children of God, according to the word of God. So here it says that the children, so Genesis chapter 10, these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. These are the children. And unto them were sons born after the flood. And this is how it happened on the earth, right? So these were their children, and the people who were ruling in Babylon were the children of Ham. And these children who were in Babylon were actually considered Hebrew, not Gentile, because they were not living in the isles of the Gentiles. They were in their land after their families, but they were not divided into isles. So this division, this is how people started counting, creating countries, counties, all of that. And doing this is what made borders and borders, geopolitics, all of those things, right? But the kingdom of God is what we're after, right? So basically, this is what they were doing. I'm just gonna just all right, I'm here. So they went before the king being Nimrod, who's actually younger than them. And they told the king these words. The king agreed with them to this affair. He did so. And all the families assembled, consisting of about 600,000 men. Wow. And they began to make bricks and burn fires to build the city and the tower that they imagined to complete. So these people now, they were supposed to be united. In verse 26, it says, these people and all their families then divided themselves. This is not what God wanted. He wanted them to go and be fruitful, multiply, but they started dividing instead of multiplying. All right, so I have to actually wrap this up because, yeah, the network is acting funny. So these people divided themselves in three parts. So the first one says, we'll ascend to heaven and fight against him and wonder what happened to the peace. The second said, we'll ascend to heaven and place our own gods there and serve them. So this desire to replace God has always been there, right? That's the second group. And the third part said, we'll ascend to heaven and smite him with bows and spears. And God knew all their works and their evil thoughts. And he saw the city and the tower that they were building. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city and very high and strong tower, to on account of its height, the mortar and bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it, until those who went up had a complete full year. It took them a year to just get their bricks and cement, right? From the top of the tower to the bottom. So this is what they were doing. God came. Here I'll read verse 32. God said to his 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him, saying, Come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man shall not understand the language of their neighbor. And they did so unto them. So what was happening was they didn't care about lives. So in this book, you may complete the chapter and read it. But in this book, they were saying that when they used to go 1 year, one full year to go up to get a brick, and if they happened to drop a single brick, like the people would start moaning and crying because of the material. And then at some point, people would fall from that high tower, but they wouldn't care about the people. But for a brick, they would mourn and like for a brick. So this is when God is like, whoa, what's going on? Let me go down there. So he comes with 70 of his angels and some of the elders, and they confuse the language. And it says that some of the people turned into apes, some of the people died, and some of the people were scattered. So the ones who were bending the bow, and the bow is also mentioned in the Bible, New Testament, it's associated with Put. So those, the people of Put, which are the Bantu people, they were scattered all over the world. The remnants, which is in James, when it's speaking about that, it's speaking to those people. Because James is a wisdom book in the New Testament. It speaks to the scattered. So these are mentioned to be the scattered. And so all of them were just displaced. But this is what happened when black people used to rule the world. And it's an interesting story. And yeah, so it would be awesome to hear what you think of it and the other parts in the book. You can read the chapter. There's so many interesting things in the book of Jasher. There's so many interesting things in the Bible as well. And thank you for taking the time to hear this. And I pray that whatever is supposed to be blessed in your life, let it come, let it flow, and let it fill your world. And whatever is supposed to be gone, let it scatter. Because if it's going against God, what they wanted to do was to make earth heaven or heaven earth or something, confusing the two, connecting and fusing confusion. But then that confusion also made people like, because when God scattered their languages, because it took them a year to go up, so now they were not able to communicate like for a whole year. So even if they tried, like it was going to be impossible. So we pray for that confusion in the kingdom of darkness, but we pray for wit in our own world so that we're always equipped with what God wants us to do at any given moment. So let us be flexible, like to be wet, like to flow. This is humor. This is humidity. This is humility. This is human. The human element of humility, of meekness, of being able to be flexible and being able to, just like water, to flow like water with wit, equipped with wit, and not to try to create our own towers, to try to manage our own affairs, but refer it to God. So the book of Jasher is literally a hidden, secret, ancient book that is in the Bible, but not in the Bible. It's mentioned in the Bible so that we can see it and we can read it. And we must see it and read it because it has so many fascinating stories. So I hope you enjoy it and you let me know what you think about it.